The station always smelled like motion, hot metal, cold air, coffee that had been sitting too long, and the faint electric bite of trains charging on the other side of the platform. It was early enough that the crowd hadn't fully become a crowd yet. People moved in scattered clusters, eyes down, shoulders forward, already late for something, even when they weren't. Andre Miles walked with the calm pace of someone who had learned that rushing never made systems kinder. He was 34, black, neatly dressed in a dark jacket and clean sneakers, a laptop bag slung across his shoulder. The kind of person who looked professional in the way employers like to describe, but still got followed in stores and questioned at doors. He carried his transit card in his right hand like a habit. Tap, pass, live. He had tapped in at 7:12 a.m. at the Oak Ridge entrance. He remembered because he'd checked his watch at the same moment, the way he always did when his morning was tight. The gate had chimed green, he'd gone through. End of story. Except the story didn't want to end. At the far end of the concourse, a line had formed near the exit gates. Not the normal people leaving the platform line. This one was sharper, more controlled. A pocket of tension. A white station attendant in a navy uniform stood beside a portable terminal, stopping passengers at random. The attendant's badge read G. Henderson. His hair was clipped tight. His expression was the kind of neutral that wasn't neutral, eyes scanning, deciding. Andre approached the exit gate, tapped his card, and felt the gate resist with a hard beep. Red. The barrier stayed locked. Andre blinked once, then tapped again. Red. The terminal above the gate flashed a message. Insufficient fare / tap-in not found. See attendant. Andre stood still for a half second, letting the moment reveal itself. Behind him, a white woman in a long coat huffed quietly. A white man with earbuds glanced up, annoyed. The station noise kept moving, but around Andre, the air thickened. Next, Henderson called, already looking in Andre's direction. Andre stepped to the side, away from the gate, and approached the attendant. Morning, Andre said, voice even. Henderson didn't respond with a greeting. He extended a hand like a toll collector. Card. Andre placed his transit card in Henderson's palm. Henderson swiped it on the portable terminal. The screen beeped. Didn't tap in, Henderson said immediately. Andre frowned, controlled. I did. Oak Ridge entrance. 7:12. Henderson's mouth twitched with the faintest hint of impatience. Terminal shows no entry. That means you entered without paying. I didn't, Andre replied. It chimed green. Henderson turned the terminal slightly away from Andre, as if the screen was private property. If you didn't pay, you're getting a citation. Standard fine is 50. Andre felt the familiar heat rise behind his ribs. Anger and disbelief braided together. He forced his shoulders to stay loose. I'm not paying a fine for something I didn't do, Andre said calmly. Henderson looked up at him more fully now. His eyes moved from Andre's face to his jacket to the bag over his shoulder. Assessment, categorization. You can argue it later, Henderson said. Right now, you pay or I call security. The words were delivered like policy, but Andre heard the subtext. Comply or be made an example. Andre glanced around. 2 other attendants stood near the gates, both white, both watching. A transit police officer, white, tall, leaned against a pillar a few meters away, pretending not to watch, but absolutely watching. Andre took a breath. He'd been in situations like this before, not always in stations, sometimes in stores, sometimes in lobbies, sometimes at office buildings where the badge scanner malfunctioned until someone else tried it. The script was always similar. System claims you're wrong. Person in uniform believes the system. You are asked to prove you deserve normal treatment. Andre kept his voice level. Can you check the tap-in history? Henderson's eyebrows lifted slightly. The what? The card's tap-in history, Andre said. The log, it stores recent validations. Henderson scoffed. That's not something we show passengers. Andre held his gaze. It's my card. Henderson shifted his weight, annoyed. Look, man. Andre cut him off, still polite. I tapped in. If your system didn't record it, that's a system issue, but you're trying to charge me like it's theft. Henderson's jaw tightened. You're getting loud. Andre blinked. He hadn't raised his voice. I'm not loud, Andre said. I'm clear. Henderson stepped closer, enough to be felt. Fine is 50. Last chance. Behind Andre, the line grew. Someone muttered, Come on. A few people stared openly now. A woman in a white scarf looked at Andre with that particular expression, half curiosity, half judgment, like she'd already decided whose fault this was. Andre could feel the pressure designed to make him fold, pay and leave, pay to make the moment stop. He didn't move. I want a supervisor, Andre said. Henderson rolled his eyes, then spoke into a radio clipped to his shoulder. Supervisor to Gate 3, fare evasion dispute. Fare evasion. Andre's mouth went tight. Words mattered. Labels hardened fast. A minute later, a white woman in a higher-grade uniform approached briskly. Her badge read S. Martin, Shift Supervisor. She looked tired in the way authority often did, overworked, under-questioned, certain by habit. What's going on? Martin asked. Henderson gestured at Andre. He didn't tap in. Gate flagged him. He refuses to pay the fine. Andre met Martin's eyes. I tapped in at Oak Ridge at 7:12. The gate chimed green. Your exit gate is saying no entry found. Martin's expression didn't change much. If there's no entry record, it means your system didn't record it, Andre interrupted, calm but firm. Not that I stole a ride. Martin's eyes narrowed slightly at the interruption. Then she said, Sir, we deal with this all day. Andre nodded. I'm sure you do. That doesn't make you right. Henderson made a quiet sound of disapproval. Martin turned toward the portable terminal in Henderson's hand. Show me. Henderson swiped Andre's card again. The screen showed a red warning. Martin nodded as if the machine had spoken truth. Tap in missing, Martin said. Fine applies. Andre held his posture. Check the tap in history. Martin looked at him. We can't. Yes, you can, Andre said. Your terminals have an audit view. I've seen it used when tourists dispute charges. Martin's face flickered. Just a moment. Then it hardened again. That's internal. Andre looked past her to the transit police officer at the pillar. The officer was watching closely now. Andre returned his gaze to Martin. If you're going to accuse me, you can also verify. Martin's lips pressed together. She glanced at Henderson. Henderson shrugged. A subtle don't bother. Andre felt the old instinct to swallow the moment. Pay $50 and leave with dignity intact. But he knew what paying would do. It would turn the accusation into fact in the only place that mattered, the record. No, Andre said quietly. I want the history. Martin exhaled through her nose like she was indulging a child. Then she snapped, All right, Henderson, pull up the log. Henderson frowned. We don't do it, Martin repeated. Henderson's fingers moved reluctantly on the terminal. He tapped through menus, scrolling with impatience. The screen angled away from Andre, but Andre watched the shift in Henderson's face as he read. Henderson stopped scrolling. His posture stiffened. Martin leaned in. What? Henderson swallowed. It shows a validation. Andre's heart beat once, hard and clean. Martin's eyes narrowed. Where? Henderson scrolled slightly, then pointed with his thumb. Oak Ridge, 7:12 a.m. For a second, the station noise seemed to fade. Andre watched Martin's face change. Confusion first, then annoyance, then the quick calculation of how to exit a mistake without admitting it fully. Martin cleared her throat. All right, she said briskly. Looks like the gate didn't sync properly. Andre held her gaze. So I tapped in. Martin nodded once, sharp. Yes. Henderson's cheeks flushed. He avoided Andre's eyes. Martin handed the card back, then waved toward the exit. Go ahead. Andre didn't take the card immediately. He let the moment sit there, proof on a screen, accusation still lingering in the air like smoke. You called it fare evasion, Andre said quietly. Martin's eyes flicked to the people watching. That's just the category. It's a label, Andre replied, and you put it on me before you checked. Martin's jaw tightened. Sir, you're free to go. Andre took his card. I'm going, he said, but you should know something. Martin's expression said she didn't want to. Andre spoke anyway, voice calm but carrying. I had the fare, he said. I had the proof, and still you were ready to punish me first. He stepped toward the gate. This time, Martin tapped something on Henderson's terminal. The exit barrier unlocked with a green chime as if it had never doubted him. Andre walked through. On the other side, he paused for a second. The station air felt colder here, or maybe it was just the clarity of it. Behind him, the line resumed. The attendants returned to scanning other cards, other faces, other assumptions. Andre looked down at his transit card in his hand. It was a small piece of plastic, but today it had become a witness. And he knew, deep in the place where patterns lived, that this story wouldn't end at the gate. Andre didn't stop walking until the noise of the station thinned behind him. Up on the street, the morning had moved on without him. Buses groaning at the curb, cyclists weaving through traffic, a vendor setting up a cart with practiced indifference. People passed Andre in both directions, unaware that 10 minutes earlier, his day had almost been rewritten by a red beep and a uniform. He slowed near the corner and finally exhaled. Not relief. Not yet. What he felt was something heavier and more familiar. The aftershock. The way your body kept reacting even after the danger had technically passed. His shoulders were tight, his jaw ached slightly from being held in place. His heart rate was steady now, but his mind wasn't. Fare evasion. The phrase replayed, sharp and careless. Andre crossed the street and walked another block before stopping. He leaned against the glass of a closed storefront and took his phone out of his pocket. For a moment, he just stared at the screen. Then he opened the transit app. The tap-in history loaded slowly, spinning for a second longer than usual, as if it knew it was about to be asked something important. There it was. 7:12 a.m., Oak Ridge Station. Entry confirmed 7:41 a.m., Central Line, in transit clean. Precise. Indisputable. Andre felt a strange mix of satisfaction and exhaustion. He hadn't imagined it. He hadn't misremembered. The system agreed with him now, but only because he'd forced it to look. He took a screenshot, then another, scrolling slightly so the timestamp was unmistakable. He saved both images to a folder he'd labelled, without thinking much about it. Transit. This wasn't the first time he'd created a folder like that. At work, Andre was known as meticulous, reliable, the guy who always had documentation. In meetings, when someone said, "I don't think that's what happened," Andre was the one who quietly pulled up the email thread or the commit log and said, "Actually, here." His co-workers admired it. His managers trusted it. None of them knew why he'd learned to do it so well. Andre pushed off the glass and kept walking, the city folding back around him. His office building rose ahead, steel and tinted windows catching the light. Normally, the sight of it grounded him. Today, it felt distant, like his body had arrived before his mind. In the elevator, he stood alone, watching the numbers climb. His reflection stared back at him, calm face, neutral expression, nothing to suggest what had just happened. That was always part of it too. By the time he sat at his desk, emails were already piling up. Slack messages, calendar reminders, normal life demanding attention like it always did. Andre opened his laptop and answered what needed answering. He joined a morning stand-up call and spoke when spoken to. His voice didn't shake. No one asked if he was okay. Why would they? During a brief pause, his phone buzzed. A notification from the Transit Authority. Subject, citation issued. Action required. Andre's stomach dropped. He opened it immediately. A citation has been issued under your transit account for fare evasion at Central Station at approximately 7:38 a.m. If unpaid, a fine of $50 will be applied. Andre stared at the screen. Slowly, carefully, he read it again. Despite the supervisor clearing him, despite the tap-in history, despite the green light, they had still issued the citation, not by accident, by inertia. Andre closed his eyes for a moment, the familiar anger rising, not hot, not explosive, but sharp and precise, the kind that focused you. So this was how it worked. In person, they'd backed down, but in the system, in the place that actually mattered, the accusation had been preserved, the label still attached. The burden shifted back onto him to fix it. He opened the email on his laptop and clicked View Citation Details. A page loaded with impersonal efficiency. Violation, fair. Evasion station, Central Attendant, G. Henderson. Supervisor, S. Martin. Notes, passenger unable to provide proof of valid tap-in. Andre let out a breath that was almost a laugh. Unable to provide proof. He pulled up the screenshots he'd just saved, the timestamps, the confirmation, the proof that had existed the entire time. He began drafting an appeal, not emotional, not angry, precise. He included the screenshots, he included the time, he included the names. He included one sentence that mattered more than all the others. The tap-in history was reviewed on-site by a supervisor and confirmed valid before I was released through the gate. He attached everything and hit submit. Then he did something else. He opened a blank document. Andre titled it simply, Central Station, 7:38 a.m. He wrote down what happened, step by step. The red gate, Henderson's words, the threat of security, the use of the term fair evasion before verification, the refusal to check history until pressed, the confirmation, the release. He didn't editorialize. He didn't speculate, he documented. Because Andre had learned something the hard way. Systems forgot quickly, but records didn't. By mid-afternoon, a response arrived. Thank you for contacting Transit Customer Review. Your citation is under investigation. Please allow 5 to 7 business days. Andre leaned back in his chair. 5 to 7 days. 5 to 7 days where the accusation would live quietly in a database. 5 to 7 days where, if something else happened, another stop, another scan, another attendant, it might surface again. He thought about the next time he'd tap his card. How the green light would feel less like permission and more like a test. When the workday ended, Andre packed his bag slowly. He took the stairs instead of the elevator, letting the physical movement bleed off the restlessness that had built up. At the station that evening, he approached the gate with the same card in his hand. This time, it chimed green immediately. No attendant stopped him, no questions asked. He passed through unnoticed, just another commuter. And somehow, that felt worse. On the train ride home, Andre watched the city blur past the window and thought about how close he'd come to paying $50 just to make the moment end. How easy it would have been. How many times he'd done it before in other forms. Paid with time, with silence, with dignity. He wondered how many people never checked the history. How many paid fines they didn't owe. How many records stayed wrong because correcting them took energy they didn't have. When he got home, Andre added one more line to his document. Even when the system admits it's wrong, it still expects you to clean up after it. He saved the file, because he knew this wasn't the end of the story. It was just the part where the gate opened, but the record stayed closed. The reply didn't come in 5 days. It came in 3. Andre noticed it only because his phone buzzed while he was brushing his teeth that morning. He glanced at the screen, half asleep, and saw the subject line before the details had a chance to soften it. Subject: Citation Review. Update. He rinsed his mouth, dried his hands, and sat on the edge of the bed before opening it. Experience had taught him not to read things like this standing up. After review, the citation issued on your account has been voided. No payment is required. Thank you for your cooperation. That was it. No apology. No acknowledgement of error. No mention of the attendant, the supervisor, the threat of security, or the fact that the accusation had existed at all. Just voided, as if the fine had simply dissolved on its own. Andre stared at the screen longer than necessary. Voided meant erased, but only in one direction. The system would remember that he had been cited, it would remember the category, it would remember the attendant ID. What it wouldn't remember was why the citation had been wrong, unless someone went looking for it. Andre opened the transit app again. The citation was gone. But the tap-in history remained. He took another screenshot anyway. That evening, Andre met his sister Nia for dinner at a small place near her apartment. She noticed something was off before he said a word. "You look like you won an argument you didn't want to have," she said, sliding a glass of water toward him. Andre smiled faintly. "That accurate?" "Painfully," she replied. He told her the whole story, not rushed, not abbreviated, from the red gate to the voided citation. Nia listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from recognition to anger to a tired kind of understanding. "They always do that," she said when he finished. "They back down quietly so they don't have to admit it publicly." Andre nodded. "And if I hadn't checked my email?" "You'd have been fined," Nia said flatly. Or worse, flagged again later. Andre stirred his food without eating. "The part that gets me," he said, "is that I had proof the whole time. It just didn't count until I insisted." Nia leaned back. "Because proof isn't about facts," she said. "It's about who they're willing to believe." That landed heavier than Andre expected. On the walk home, Andre thought about Henderson, the attendant's quick certainty, the way his hand had already been halfway to the citation before any verification happened. He thought about Martin, the supervisor's controlled irritation, the relief that had crossed her face when the system allowed her to correct the mistake without apologizing. And he thought about the phrase that still bothered him most: passenger unable to provide proof. Andre unlocked his apartment and stepped inside, the familiar quiet wrapping around him. He set his bag down and opened his laptop one more time. He pulled up the document he'd been keeping. Central Station, 7:38 a.m. He added a new section. Outcome: citation voided after appeal. No apology issued. No explanation provided. Error acknowledged only in outcome, not in process. Then he added something else, something he hadn't planned to write. Observation: the accusation travelled farther than the correction. Andre leaned back and stared at the ceiling. He knew the system would consider this resolved. Clean, closed. But Andre also knew something it didn't account for. Memory. Not the digital kind, the human kind. The next morning, at Oak Ridge Station, Andre approached the gate again. He tapped his card. Green. The attendant nearby didn't look up. No challenge, no suspicion. Andre passed through with the rest of the crowd, invisible again. But this time, he noticed something new. A young black man a few steps ahead of him had his card rejected. Red light. Same message. Tap in not found. The man frowned, confused, and stepped toward an attendant. Andre slowed. He watched the interaction begin. The uniformed posture, the request for the card, the first sentence already forming. Andre hesitated for half a second. Then he stopped. "Excuse me," Andre said, stepping closer but not intruding. "Ask them to check the tap-in history." The young man blinked. "What?" "The tap-in history," Andre repeated calmly. "The log. It's there." The attendant shot Andre a look, annoyed, sharp. "Sir, this doesn't concern you." Andre met his eyes. "It does if you're about to charge him for something the system messed up." The attendant hesitated, just enough. The young man straightened. "Yeah," he said. "Can you check it?" A beat. The attendant sighed and turned to the terminal. Andre didn't wait to see the end. He walked on. On the platform, as the train approached, Andre felt something settle in his chest. Not satisfaction, not victory, but a quieter resolve. The system would keep doing what it did. Accusations would keep coming faster than corrections. Records would keep remembering the wrong thing first. But now, Andre carried something else too, knowledge. And sometimes that was enough to interrupt the pattern, just long enough for someone else to get through the gate without paying for a mistake that wasn't theirs. As the train doors opened, Andre stepped inside, card back in his pocket. This time, the green light wasn't permission, it was confirmation.